democracy, the Olympic Games, benchmarks of modern society. Yet their roots go back millennia, all the way to the ancient Greeks. The Romans have given us modern legislature and a sophisticated infrastructure. While the Vikings established elaborate trading networks and discovered America well before Columbus. They've all helped forge a new world. The Greeks, the Romans, and the Vikings are the founding fathers of modern Europe. Greece, a Mediterranean world of temple ruins, white marble sculptures of mischievous gods, and cramped mountain villages glued to rugged coastlines. Islands dot the sea, many of them barren and uninhabited. Extensive olive groves stretch across the mainland, while oak forests dominate the mountains. This is where, almost 3,000 years ago, the story of the Greeks begins. A collection of city-states scattered across the eastern Mediterranean. The mini-kingdoms are constantly at loggerheads. The only connection, their language and their gods. They rule from the top of snowy Mount Olympus. From here, they interfere in human affairs whenever they fancy. Only the 12 most important Greek gods live as one big family on Mount Olympus. The Greeks pictured them like modern-day top models, refined, even features, tall and slender, boasting ideal measurements. But very human traits lie hidden behind the divine facades: intrigue, envy, and deceit. The Greek gods are completely different to the way we imagine gods to be. They aren't omnipotent, they aren't omniscient, they aren't even omnipresent. But what bothers us most from a Christian, Muslim, or Jewish point of view is the fact that these gods are morally imperfect, that they fight each other, they commit adultery, they steal and they deceive. Despite this, the Olympian gods were considered fair and were revered for at least 1,000 years. Revered, but also feared, especially when they play with fate. The most colorful character is the powerful father of the gods, Zeus. He can do anything, and his many affairs are legendary. His sister is Demeter, a virgin and a mother all at once, and in charge of harvest and fertility. Her brother, Poseidon, is the irritable god of the sea and likes to sink ships. Athena is said to be a brainchild and represents wisdom and war. Beautiful Aphrodite takes care of love. Although married, she's rarely faithful. Dionysus loves to celebrate with opulent feasts and raucous parties. And finally, Apollo. He's responsible for all sorts of things, not least the Delphi oracle. In ancient Greece, the gods are consulted about everything. Getting their advice means traveling to a holy place, ideally straight to the center of the world, Delphi. An imposing temple hosts the most influential oracle of the time. Thousands make the arduous journey bearing valuable gifts, because without offerings, there's no divine prophecy.
4 drachmas we've handed over for this stubborn beast.
Apollo will value it.
We'll see about that.
Countless ordinary people make the pilgrimage in the hope that fate will take a turn in their favor. Even famous kings like Croesus and Alexander the Great believe in divine prophecy. Profit or loss, war or peace, victory or defeat, it's all down to the oracle alone.
Let us through. We really were here first. It's me, Mimis, remember? Thanks.
Come in. Have you brought gifts for the oracle?
Yes, of course, yes.
The oracle's prophecies are delivered by a priestess, chosen for her gift of seeing into the future. She can't be addressed directly. The questions go through the priests, who pass them on to the Pythia. The ceremony takes place behind closed doors. That's why nobody really knows what happened in the temple's inner sanctum. Legend has it the Pythia falls into a deep trance during the ritual. Only then can she receive messages from the gods. When the priestess finally delivers the prophecy, her language is confused, as if intoxicated. How the women fell into a trance is not clear. They may have breathed in methane and carbon monoxide, which escaped the ground in large quantities. Over time, it can lead to oxygen shortage in the brain. The speculation is that the Pythia breathed in fumes, which emanated from the temple's interior, or that she chewed toxic laurel leaves. It's also possible that she drank from the temple spring. Gases could also be verified there. What's clear is that the Pythia fell into a divine trance. Mostly she uttered inarticulate words. The priests then interpreted these and proclaimed them as divine prophecies. So the priests are behind the mysterious prophecies. Powerful men who run a flourishing business in Delphi.
Can you tell us what she had to say?
It is tough to interpret the words of the gods. But you can tell us something, can't you? Apollo is supportive of you and your plans. And for your generosity, that much I can say. He will reward you well.
The more valuable the gifts, the more useful the prophecies. And to ensure that the messages worked for everyone, the priests came up with a clever system.
Die Priester hatten ihre Macht.
The priests' power came through knowledge. They sent their people right across the world in order to gain insights into what was happening everywhere. And when people came here and asked a question, the priests knew what answer they should give them.
Bescheid, was für eine Antwort sie geben sollten. Und die Leute, die hierher gekommen sind,
and the people who came here sent money. And the priests managed this money and kept it in treasuries. These treasuries and the money that came to Delphi were managed like a modern bank. And because they also issued loans, the priests developed a lot of power.
Und so sind die Priester zu dieser großen Macht gekommen.
The priests effectively managed Greece's financial hub. Ironically, the two most important Delphi principles were apparently written above the temple: know yourself and nothing in excess. Above all, it's imperative to keep the unpredictable gods on your side. All the city-states trust Apollo with their business. Even powerful Athens sends votive offerings to Delphi. Distant Greek colonies are thought to have operated their own oracles and treasuries. These Greek temples and treasuries have continued to fascinate us over the centuries, from painters, architects, and writers to countless modern tourists, including the Temple of Selinunt in Sicily and the Poseidon Temple near Athens. At the time, the old belief systems are still popular, but gradually some thinkers begin to find other explanations. Their concept: understanding the world through thought. They begin to observe nature in detail. The new-fledged scientists find patterns in the mating behavior of bees and develop new instruments to measure the circumference of the Earth. They even design a water clock. Its function: to restrict the speaking time available to politicians. First machines appear, including an allotment machine to select and appoint officials. Stories of temperamental gods are no longer enough for these scholars. They want to understand cause and effect and develop scientific laws. They call themselves philosophers and friends of wisdom, and are seen as the founders of modern science. From the 6th century BC onwards, the thirst for knowledge spreads across Greece like wildfire. Schools of thought become the new temples, establishments that lay the foundations for the research centers of today. In the 16th century, Rome picks up on these ancient ideas. Pope Julius II even dedicates a fresco to the great philosophers, which shows them in the School of Athens. One of them is Socrates, who probes Athens's people with uncomfortable questions and concludes, "I know that I know nothing." Plato is the founder of the first school of philosophy in the world. His objective is the search for truth. To his right is his pupil Aristotle, who makes history with the invention of logic. There are lots of rumors about Diogenes, but few hard facts. But Archimedes is considered exceptional. He's famous for his ingenuity, even in ancient times. That's precisely why he's given a special assignment. Archimedes is to find out if the king's crown is made of pure gold, or if it's been diluted with a cheaper material. A tough challenge, as the precious crown can't be damaged. Legend has it that Archimedes has an idea while having a bath. As he gets into a tub of water filled to the brim, some of it overflows. The learned man realizes the amount of overflowing water equates to the volume of his own body. His conclusion: the volume of an object and its density can be calculated by measuring the displaced water. Archimedes speculates that the crown's material can also be calculated this way. He observes that an object with a lower density than water displaces more water than an object of the same weight, but with a greater density. Jubilant at his discovery, Archimedes is said to have shouted, "Eureka! I have found it!" and run naked into the street. Archimedes now takes the crown and a lump of gold of equal weight. If the crown is also made of pure gold, both objects should displace the same amount of water. But the crown displaces more. It must have been mixed with another material. Archimedes managed to solve many other conundrums. He's still regarded as one of the brightest brains of all time, and his Archimedes principle has never been topped. But his contemporaries are not far behind him. The scholars of ancient Greece designed the first world maps with longitudes and latitudes. They discover that the Earth is round, and Ptolemy works out how planets and other celestial bodies orbit the Earth. The first steam engine and a water pump are other notable inventions. And the Greeks developed new weapons like the catapult and protective vests for their soldiers. Archimedes formulates the lever rules and lays the foundations for modern mechanics. But also geometry and algebra go back to the scholars of ancient Greece. Much of what we take for granted today originated with the observations, calculations, and conclusions drawn by the great minds of antiquity. Without them, perhaps there would never have been a dome to complete a church. Insights into the building blocks of Earth and nuclear physics might never have developed. The Industrial Revolution at the start of the 19th century might not have happened. And crossing the oceans could have remained no more than a pipe dream. In the 6th century BC, a reform in Athens changes the lives of all Greeks forever. Around 80,000 Athenians bear witness to a monumental political change. The city-state is in crisis. The common people rebel against the king and ruling classes. They want to have a say in important state decisions. It's the birth of the Popular Assembly. Every citizen of Athens can take part, at least almost everyone. The assembly is restricted to men over 18. And to allow even the poor to take part, they're paid a daily wage for their attendance.
One after the other. Who are you?
Agapetos! Agapetos!
Okay, come up.
The citizens of Athens meet once a month at a place near the Acropolis to discuss politics.
Agapetos, my friend. It was high time.
Yeah, I had stuff to do.
A popular assembly with regular meetings. It's a first in history. It marks the beginning of a new system, democracy. It puts an end to Greece's autocratic rulers, symbolized by the assassination of two noblemen, the tyrannicide. It's a different story in mighty Egypt and the Middle East. Here, regents still rule with godlike authority. Here, the law is always on the side of the despots. The people have no rights, but are expected to give their lives in battle. In fact, democracy is the product of a crisis. First, the Greeks fight each other, then they have to defend themselves against the Persians. Everyone from noblemen to simple farmers is needed to mount a serious defense against the advancing enemy. The city-states' armies make up many thousands of soldiers. Poor and rich fight shoulder to shoulder in closed ranks. After all, their independence is at stake. Athens also builds a new fleet. They need thousands of rowers to keep it moving, recruited from the poorest of society. Together, the Greeks are strong. They beat the Persian aggressors in 2 decisive battles. But there are political consequences. In return for risking their lives for the state, the soldiers now request more rights, in particular those from the common population. After all, they all contribute to victory or defeat, whether they're farmers or day laborers, noblemen or simple citizens. Now they all want to have a say. It takes around 200 years before they reach their goal. The collective battle experiences of the citizens of Athens and the attempt to find common solutions during the preparations for war were a decisive contribution to the emergence of democracy. The citizens of the other city-states had similar experiences, but in Athens, the idea of democracy emerged particularly quickly. The new mantra is rule of the people, but that only includes adult male citizens of Athens. The opinions of women, children, slaves, and foreigners are immaterial. They're excluded from everything. The wealthy nobility has the greatest influence on politics. Lower-ranking officials come from the second and third classes of merchants, craftsmen, and rich farmers. The fourth class is made up of day laborers, but they can all contribute to the People's Assembly. We're standing here where the Athenian People's Assembly congregated, the pnyx. The remains of the speaker's podium are in the background. This is where the people of Athens used to come together to make decisions.
Ah, there he is. People of Athens, you all know that our fleet is the biggest and strongest in the world.
It's just as well.
And yet, our peace remains fragile. What if one day the access to the harbor is cut off? It is high time to build a protective wall from Athens to Piraeus.
Easily said. And who is to pay for all this?
Listen up. The rich will get an extra tax for the building of the wall.
The orators formed a central role in the People's Assembly. They were also known as demagogues because they led the people. The word first had a positive meaning, later a more negative one, because a demagogue could also lead people to make a wrong decision, in his own interest and against the good of the people.
Citizens of Athens, I ask you, do you want to live in prosperity and defy our enemies? Then vote to build the protective wall. Say yes. Say yes. Just say yes.
Does anyone want to say anything? Now is the time. He should come forward and talk to all of us here. Now listen up. Whoever is against the wall of Silenus' proposal, raise your hand. Right. All those in favour, raise your hands now.
It's the voice of the ordinary man that counts. Whether a law is passed or not depends on the majority, and that usually lies with the common people.
The result is clear. It has been decided. The wall will be built.
Special taxes for unusual expenses are only paid by the rich. The ancient Greeks left more stone tablets behind than any state before them. Thousands of decrees chiseled into stone. They refer to all sorts of decisions, building projects, whether Athens should go to war or spend money on festivities. The most important decisions of the People's Assembly were recorded on steles such as these. They were then erected in public places such as the Acropolis or the Agora, the market. This stele, for example, bears two tax decrees. Firstly, who will collect the taxes of Athens' allies, and secondly, how the monies should be collected. On this stele, there are images of receptacles, sacks, and coins. These simple symbols mean it's time to collect taxes. Everyone could see and understand them immediately. The word phoroi, or taxes, appears frequently, but they were only issued when needed as one-off payments. When the People's Assembly passes a law, it's effective immediately, and everyone can read about it on the stone tablets. Anyone unable to read can ask a municipal reader to recite it for them. Official duties in ancient Greece are allocated randomly by sortition. Although no qualifications are needed to become a market policeman, a commissioner for epidemics, or a judge, a good reputation is essential.
Leonidas Linos, you are elected. And here we have Gregorius Panakos. And also Galamis has been elected.
The Greeks invented the allotment machine especially for this purpose. Two are positioned at the entrance of the place of assembly. Slots on the front are divided into 5 columns. Each column relates to a letter in the alphabet, and every letter represents a group of candidates. The candidates' nameplates are inserted at random into the slots of his particular group. Black and white marbles are then thrown into the allotment machine to select names. White means elected, black, not elected. The sortition system was a basic principle of Athenian democracy. All citizens were to have equal rights, and they should all have the same opportunities to hold a public office. Only very high-ranking positions, such as Commander-in-Chief of the Army, weren't allocated at random. The allotment machine was also developed to avoid corruption. Lots were drawn for the position of judge on the very day of the hearing. The selected person had to go to the trial immediately, so it was completely impossible to influence or bribe a judge. The Roman regents are not impressed with the Athenian model, and the great European monarchs also managed to oppose the rule of the people successfully. Across Europe, the population has to forcefully fight for their rights over the course of centuries. Eventually, democracy returns with the French Revolution in 1789, 2,000 years after the Greeks invented it. Women finally get to vote in the 20th century. Today, the political power of the people is a basic principle in the Western world. But in ancient Greece, anyone wishing to become a politician also needs to be a good warrior. Physical fitness is compulsory for young men. In educational establishments, they learn a little about rhetoric and grammar, but their main discipline is sports, in the nude. In fact, the word gymnasium simply means naked place. The demands are extremely high. Anyone showing real talent during training receives support to compete in big sporting events as an athlete. Having a honed body is now important. The ancient Greeks are the first to drive the cult around body image to the max. Their beauty ideals are carved in stone for all to see. For the first time in history, statues look lifelike. Their flawlessness still stands as an idea of absolute beauty. The Renaissance period picks up on these ideals, and new works of art are created after ancient models. But for these artists, it's less about immaculate beauty than about the perfect reproduction of the human anatomy. And no Renaissance man would ever have put his own body through such tough training. Greek sculpture uses the human body as a theme. It can show a god or it can show an athlete. It's not really your average body. Just like today, there is a search for ideal bodies, and they're reproduced in striking detail, with athletic nuances, showing all the muscles, with pronounced ribs and in beautiful poses. These 2,000-year-old beauty ideals are still current, even if today few take such care to keep their bodies in shape. Greek youths were very different. Their fitness is both for battle, but also for competitive sports. There are around 300 sporting events every year. The participants are ambitious. Winning brings in money and career prospects. And the old disciplines have endured the test of time. Discus has been around since the very beginning. Javelin, too. Both require strength and a superior technique. Fist fighting was also introduced by the Greeks, although the rules have become much stricter. And in the 21st century, the thrill of the race still fascinates. The Greeks' biggest sporting event takes place once every 4 years in Olympia. Messengers are sent throughout the land to announce the start of the games. All the city-states are invited, even those at loggerheads. The competition is marked by an armistice throughout the Greek world, the Olympic peace. Originally, the spectacle is held in honor of Zeus and regularly attracts tens of thousands of visitors. The facilities are remarkable. Sports halls are at the athletes' disposal for training. They are to have everything they need. And just like today, the sportsmen are superstars. If they win. The winners receive a laurel wreath and secure eternal fame. Milon of Croton is a legend. A wrestler, also known as Fatty, he devours 8 kilos of meat every day. Theogenes, a fist fighter. He claims 1,300 victories, and his statue is said to have healing powers. And there's the notorious wrestler Arachion. Even as he lies dying, he's said to have dislocated his adversary's toe. But there are also some famous losers. Apollonius is excluded for being late for the competition. Eupolis is shown to be corrupt, and a different Theogenes is punished severely for boring the audience. But in the 5th century AD, the peaceful competitions come to an abrupt end. The Christian emperor Theodosius forbids heathen cults, including the Olympic Games. The venue disappears, first beneath a new city, then under meter-high rubble. Archaeologists rediscover the ruins in the 19th century. Olympia becomes famous once again, and in 1896, the first modern Olympic Games take place in Athens. Soon, women are also allowed to take part. Later, it is opened up for other races too. And in the globalized world of the 21st century, the Olympic Games have become a staple. They stand as an eternal symbol for peaceful communication between people. Theatre is just as important, although less of a mass event today. In ancient Greece, every little town has its own theatre, an object of pride for its inhabitants. The theatre has its origins in religious rites. Ritual dances in honor of the god Dionysus played a central role. These so-called satirical dances then developed into drama with role play. The special thing about Epidaurus is that sick people were sent here to the theatre for therapeutic reasons. Performances follow strict rules, and every piece is performed only once. There are no more than 3 actors on stage, all of them male. They wear masks to play many roles, old, young, even women. What counts are big gestures, a loud voice, and precise pronunciation. They're accompanied by a choir to drive the performance and explain its background.
Why are they not ready? The performances.
Most important are the commissioner, a nobleman who pays for everything,
Very impressive.
and of course, the writer of the piece.
That's not good enough.
Ah, Euripides. Your new piece seems to be spectacular again.
Yes, of course.
When I think of your last pieces, I don't want to doubt your great work.
Just say what
but
you think.
I don't understand why everyone has to die at the end.
It's a tragedy. That's why.
Something amusing and light might also be nice.
Something to laugh at, huh? But listen, I write tragedy.
Yes, I know. But I want to see something different this time. Do you understand?
No, I don't.
Euripides, I mean it. A little more lightness wouldn't be wrong. Think on it. I'll come back tomorrow.
The epos are tragic heroes' tales, written in verse form and rather long-winded, like Homer's epics. The main characters usually try to escape their fates, but it almost always ends in their deaths. The comedy is a little easier, an enjoyable piece, often a little coarse, with a guaranteed happy ending. As Aristotle says, theatre cleanses the soul. The stories originate from the myths. They deal with conflicts which not just the gods but also people can solve. The message that there are solutions for all conflicts brings on the healing process. As long as the audience can actually hear the director's message, Greek theatres could hold up to 14,000 people.
It has to be bigger. Your gestures have to be much bigger. Understand? It's about life and death. You there, hurry up instead of gawping. Carry on working, you too. We don't have much time. You have to speak more clearly so you can be heard in the last row. So, you look at each other. You don't recognize your brother. Not so close. Good. Come on out. Don't be shy. Come on. The hair looks good. Stop laughing. That's not so good. That has to look better somehow. Tell the tailors to do the whole thing again.
In the theatre of Epidaurus, every single word can be heard right up to the last row. The structure is famous for its exceptional acoustics. Two things in particular create the good acoustics here. On the one hand, the incline of the entire theatre. On the other, the ratio between seat and backrest. It's perfect. That's why the audience in the last rows can also hear the voices very clearly. The frequencies increase from bottom to top. It's typical that the echo concentrates here. When we move away, we notice that the sound changes, because the symmetry of the echo changes. Epidaurus has perfect acoustics, but we don't know if the Greeks had a plan. Did they make exact calculations, or was it just experience? That will remain their secret. The theatre as a cleanser of the soul and a mirror of human conflicts has survived the millennia and found new forms of expression. Not just the famous stages of the world, but also cinemas show happy or sad stories every night. When the moving image takes over, film becomes more popular. The studios produce blockbusters and reach an audience of millions. Over the course of the centuries, new heroes conquer the big screen and stage. But their stories follow an old pattern. There are comedies and tragedies. Greek culture spreads through the known world in ancient times. Responsible is Alexander the Great, the king of Macedonia. In the 4th century BC, the young ruler sets off to conquer the world. He forces the Greek city-states to unite under his rule and creates an empire. He introduces Greek language and education to the conquered territories. A new epoch begins: Hellenism. The Greek conqueror takes his inheritance from his hometown of Pella all the way to India. But the golden age of Athens has already ended. After Alexander's early death, his empire falls apart and a new power emerges: Rome. The Romans specialize on conquering land and people. They're strictly organized, in contrast to the constantly warring Greeks. Their commanders have no trouble in overrunning the small city-states once and for all. Compared to the ambitious Romans, the Greeks always remained what they had been at the beginning, too different and too disunited to put up a fight against Rome. The Romans are attentive pupils and very consciously take on the Greek inheritance. They spread Greek culture further throughout Europe, because the Romans understand the Greeks' unique contribution, whether it be education, literature, or theatre. That means many Greek accomplishments were taken up by the Romans and passed on. For example, much of the Roman legislative systems were of Greek origin. So the Romans preserved the inheritance of the Greeks for posterity. And their inheritance is impressive. Their tireless search for explanations leads the Greeks to uncover the universal laws of nature and lay the foundations for modern science. They influenced modern technology more than anyone else, and even prepared the ground for progress. Thanks to their research, we can today survey not only the world, but also space. Their art of telling stories gives rise to the great works of world literature and inspires the film industry. Their theaters are the models for huge arenas, which accommodate tens of thousands of people for mega shows. The idea to bring many peoples together for peaceful competitions is still celebrated every 4 years during our modern Olympics. Around the globe and across all borders. But the most important influence of ancient Greece today is the idea that the citizens rule their state and control it through laws made by the people. Many members of the European Union would probably not be democratic today without the reforms of the ancient Greeks. And not just Europe. The democratic thought of government of the people, by the people, for the people was formulated by Abraham Lincoln. The accomplishments of the ancient Greeks have survived millennia. Even today, they continue to shape life and thought in the Western world substantially. There is no doubt, ancient Greece is the cradle of Western culture. Around 3,000 years ago, the biggest empire of the ancient world is born in a damp, swampy basin on the shores of the Tiber. At first, few people settled the mosquito-ridden hills of Rome. But within just a few centuries, the Romans have taken over all of Italy and beyond. The former malaria nest eventually rules over more than 50 provinces. At the height of its power, it includes a quarter of the then-known world. The empire stretches from Scotland right across Germania's endless forests, all the way to the Black Sea and North Africa. Even the mighty Egyptians have to bow to Rome. 60 million people have to surrender to the conquerors. Hundreds of thousands of well-equipped soldiers defeat one people after another. Their weapons are the best in the world. Their military is perfectly organized. The Romans beat the barbarians in the north, overrun the kingdoms of the east, and even subjugate the powerful Syrian regent. Nothing and nobody can put a stop to the Imperium Romanum. Rome's power depends on its legionnaires. Their job varies substantially within each province. Along the Rhine, the soldiers are more like builders than warriors. Border fortifications like the limes are major building sites for years at a time. Further north, the legionnaires have to face the cold as well as violent locals who are far from happy about the intruder's presence. Some of them also take on administrative duties in the new territories. There's work for them throughout the empire, but most are stationed in the border areas. There are 28 legions during the time of the emperors. That's 170,000 men, plus the same again in support troops. In Rome, the legionnaires' achievements are immortalized in stone. Trajan's column still stands at its original site in the center of the city. There are dozens of plaster casts of the triumphal cenotaph in the Museo della Civiltà Romana. They help us understand how the legions functioned. Alexandra Busch of the German Archaeological Institute in Rome specializes on Roman military. Here the Roman legionnaires are shown during the construction of an encampment. They weren't just involved in the construction of their own quarters, but also in the development of the land. They built roads and bridges. Legionnaires didn't fight constantly. In fact, they might not see a battle for years at a time. Instead, they went on patrol, served as messengers, organized customs traffic. And that's why it was so attractive to serve in the Roman army. Wherever the Roman legions go, they quickly construct a fortress. Here, far away from home, the soldiers guard the empire's borders. Battles are very rare, but when the time comes, they're well prepared. Their weapons are unbeatable. Their throwing lances glide over 15 meters and penetrate any shield. If pulled out, they break, handicapping the enemy. Artillery machines with tension springs catapult stones up to 300 meters. And the Romans invent landmines. Crow's feet make it impossible to traverse the battlefield. They even use biological weapons. Burning bundles of wood are tied between the horns of cattle, and the animals are driven into enemy lines, in the hope they don't suddenly decide to turn round. When a legion is transferred or goes to war, it's a huge logistical challenge. The defeated locals have to supply provisions for many hundreds of legionnaires and their animals. The majority of their harvest goes to the occupying forces, as do water, draft animals, and wagons. Keeping the legions moving is a gigantic task. The army needs to be sustained even in the most remote provinces of the empire. Thousands of heavily laden soldiers march up to 30 kilometers a day. Often, the Romans simply cut a straight passage through uninhabited land. It's not unusual for them to erect their camps right in the wilderness, and they leave their marks. The construction of the forts and the need for firewood alone means that in some regions entire forests disappear. A legion of 5,000 men use more than 8,000 kilos of cereal crops for porridge and bread every day, as well as 50,000 liters of water and 18,000 kilos of fodder just for the animals. Jobs in the military are sought after. The army provides a regular income, chances of a career, and a secure old age provision. But social security has its price. The soldiers live far from home for very long periods. Towns begin to grow around the fortresses, many of which still exist today. Cologne and the city of Koblenz on the Rhine were once small military fortresses. The current state capital of Mainz can also trace its origins back to the Romans, just like Regensburg on the Danube. And wherever they go, the Roman soldiers try to imitate life in their capital. Living in Rome, that's the common dream. It's a metropolis, home of la dolce vita, even though the sweet life is only affordable for a small upper class.
Pay attention. Tulia, lend a hand.
This is excellent, as always.
Flavius, bring some more dates.
And more wine. Will you go to the arena tomorrow?
But of course. I've put a lot of money on this Gallic guy.
Yes, the goal.
Oh, you know the tall blonde one.
He's very willing. That's what the wife of the consul told me in confidence.
Oh. Tell me more about it.
Well, yesterday I bumped into Titus in the baths. He has this new African who will fight your Gallic gladiator tomorrow.
Yes.
If you ask me, your Gaul has no chance against the African.
You'll see. He'll win.
Tulia, bring us the hair. Go on.
Oh.
Look, have you ever seen anything
that's
so
lovely.
blonde? From Germania, for you. Your slave girl makes such fabulous wigs.
They have such beautiful hair, these barbarians.
Yeah, sometimes I envy them. So wild and so free.
Well, ladies, have you had enough?
The rich live in magnificent houses. A little outside town lies Hadrian's Villa, an imperial summer residence with gardens and wells. But most of the millions who live in Rome make ends meet in rental flats. Their remains can still be seen today in Ostia, Rome's harbour town. On the ground floor, there are snack stalls and small shops. People live in small, cramped rooms in the upper stories without toilet or kitchen. Many of the flats are very expensive, even if they're run down. On the other hand, a quarter of the city is public space, available to all citizens. People meet at the Colosseum, the first multi-story arena. It offers space for 70,000 people and even boasts sun sails. Entrance is free for the poor and bread is distributed. This is a first in history. Every day, public trials are held on the forums. Anyone can come and watch. Temples are also popular meeting places. The forum is the forerunner of the piazza. It's where all of Roman society meets. Whether rich or poor, enslaved or free, all layers of society brush shoulders here. There are rich senators, politicians who decide over the fate of the empire, and their wives, the Roman matrons. Numerous prostitutes offer their services in countless brothels. For the Romans, this is completely normal. The majority of the population are simple people. Only a few belong to the privileged upper classes. No matter whether a king, the Senate, or an emperor rules the capital, Rome's social structure hardly changes. At the top of society is the rich nobility, Rome's old families. They occupy top positions in politics and the military. Then come the knights, rich men who make a career in the service of the state or as merchants. Below them, the broad spectrum of the plebeians, the simple populace, mainly workmen and farmers with their families. At the lowest level are countless slaves, men and women who toil tirelessly to support the enormous empire's flourishing economy. Rome has several slave markets. Every week they offer new merchandise. Often they're prisoners of war. Over the course of centuries, around 400,000 slaves come to the capital.
Look, that's real muscle, no? An Iberian slave. Very healthy, no illnesses, very robust, suitable for all work. Just arrived.
Hang on.
Ah, and he is strong.
I'm looking for a slave who can deal with paperwork.
I understand. You don't want a worker, but something for the house. You're in luck. I have just the thing for you. Look. Versatile and able, tough to find these days. And gentlemen, she is also something for the eye. I'll show her to you. Good for work in the house and
That
beautiful.
doesn't fit. No.
Really no? Sit down. I also have a Greek. He might be...
You also have a Greek?
Yes, bring the Greek over. Look at him. He's clever. Something special.
And the price?
A learned slave. 100 sesterces, at least. What do you think?
I'll give you 20.
He speaks several languages fluently and can write them. And he knows something of medicine. Of course. That's the way with Greeks. Okay. Then take him for 50 sesterces.
Here, you can count it.
No, I trust you. Here you go, and lots of luck.
Come, this way.
House slaves are rare. Most work hard on the land, in mines, or in the public baths. On the island of Sicily, in the province of Enna, lies one of the best preserved Roman baths of antiquity. The Villa Romana del Casale, a luxurious estate in the countryside. It's been a World Heritage Site since 1997. I'm standing here in one of the villa's ovens. The slaves constantly added wood to the furnace. That's how the air was warmed and then guided through these ducts into the baths. The hot air flowed inside the villa, below the ground, and also in pipes along the walls, and warmed the entire baths. This part of the villa would be known as hammam in the East. This is where they would look after personal hygiene, very important to the Romans. The mosaics show slaves bringing massage oil to the baths. There are also female slaves to look after women. This is the most famous room in the villa because of the bikini-clad ladies. They were athletes. Some lift weights or throw a discus. These, over here, run. These ones play volleyball. And at the end, there was even a prize giving.
E poi c'è la premiazione.
All this was only possible through one important construction, the aqueduct. It brought water to the villa where it flowed into the baths, but also the kitchens. And it was used to cool the house through many small fountains. Water was always an extremely important element in ancient Rome.
Perché l'acqua è un elemento molto importante.
Rome's ingenious engineers invent the aqueduct, monumental water pipes that are masterpieces of construction. A former director of the Roman Water Authority writes proudly, "Compare the diversity of our constructions with which water is brought here with the useless pyramids or the senseless monuments of the Greeks." 5 long-distance conduits bring water to Rome. Every day, 900 million litres of fresh water reach the city. That's an average of 400 litres per person per day. Fresh water is kept in reservoirs, and from there, pressure pipes bring it to distributor basins in the centre. In every part of town, there are public latrines, where everyone likes to discuss private and business affairs. And the city has several large baths. Over 1,000 fountains and wells are constantly fed with drinking water. The belief of sanum per aquam, meaning health through water, was widespread. Antique pipes still bring water to the famous Trevi fountain. Until the 19th century, the old Roman water system was regarded as the most advanced in Europe. Today, the idea of guiding water to cities has spread right across the world. What the Roman invention led to is demonstrated by modern hydraulic engineers. But the easy life in ancient Rome is only possible because there are hard-working politicians.
What's new? Just the essential things, please.
Unfortunately, there are a few things today that cannot wait. The voting lists for the next election are probably most important. And then there are quite a few new petitions, which are particularly directed at you.
Yes, yes.
The Roman upper class is anything but lazy and decadent. On the contrary, it's hard-working, ambitious, and holds the empire together. Just a few hundred men rule over 60 million people. Just like a modern corporation, a few managers hold the reins of the huge venture Imperium Romanum.
This is not the way. Hurry up.
They're the workaholics of their time, from tax officers or town planners to officials responsible for the distribution of provisions. They also organize the delivery of supplies to the capital. Wine and oil arrive in amphora mainly from Spain. Horses for their army from North Africa, iron from Gaul, amber from Germania, and wool from Britannia. The most important thing, grain, comes from Rome's richest province, Egypt. The land of the pharaohs is the breadbasket of the mighty empire. The Egyptians have been growing corn on the shores of the Nile for thousands of years. Their harvests now go mainly to Rome, where every year around 300,000 tons of grain are used. The concept of bread for the people is a Roman instrument of power. If the people don't suffer from hunger, they'll keep quiet. The politicians know stability in the empire comes from stability at home.
Well, it seems your harvest is much better this year. That will please the prefect.
We'll surely be able to deliver the 100 bushels in August.
It's 300. And Rome's expecting a punctual delivery.
Always Rome. You're insatiable.
Rome. Rome is the world. And never forget, the empire will continue to grow.
In the center of Rome, the 45-meter-high Monte Testaccio is covered in clay shards. It shows just how many people had to be fed. Most foods arrived in clay pots. They were only used once and then thrown away. Over hundreds of years, they created a huge rubbish dump.
Aquí, esta ánfora, estos fragmentos.
These are fragments of an African amphora. You can tell because of the fine clay, and they also sound much more metallic. If you take the current weight of this entire mound, which geologists have calculated, and you have to remember that many shards are by now missing, and divide it by the weight of a single amphora, you arrive at so much olive oil that you could feed 1 million people for 250 years with it.
A una población de 1 millón de habitantes durante 250 años.
But to feed 1 million people in Rome alone, the administration has to function like clockwork.
If this goes on, I can't do a thing.
The messengers will be here soon.
I don't want to keep hearing these empty promises. When exactly is the next session of the Senate?
Next week.
And what do we have?
The list of tax receipts arrived early this morning.
How does it look?
Only Egypt has delivered.
That's not enough. That will never suffice. Britannia, Gaul, Mauritania. What about them? Deal with it. Send more messengers, double the riders, and bring me the income.
Running the empire would not have been possible without its elaborate road network. Transport routes are built everywhere, usually by the legionnaires. Over time, the Romans dissect their entire realm with trails and stone roads. The network leads from their capital to the farthest borders. through forests and untouched lands, past legionnaires' fortresses, villages and towns. The Roman transport system is the result of unparalleled logistics. Goods, people, and messages leave Rome and reach Spain, Britannia, Gaul, Germania, the Black Sea, and northern Africa. Many centuries afterwards, Europe still profits from the antique road network of the Romans. Many of the most important transport links today still follow the roads that once dissected the Roman Empire. The Roman concept of infrastructure and their elaborate logistics laid the foundations for today's complex transport networks. Rome also invests in entertainment. Arenas are built throughout the empire, including the mighty Colosseum, where gladiator fights are regular and hugely popular spectacles. Gladiators are the superstars of Rome. They lead short but exciting lives. They're well looked after at the gladiator school, receive regular massages and the best doctors. And the lucky ones have to fight only 3 times a year. Some even have their own agents, who treat their protégés well. After all, they want to recoup their costs with high prize money. It's big business. Gladiator blood is even traded as a virility treatment, the Viagra of antiquity. And they're a hit with Rome's ladies. They're basically just like today's sports icons. But the Colosseum also had an even darker side. 2,000 years ago, prisoners of war, criminals, Christians, and the celebrated gladiators lose their lives here. Their desperate struggles against each other or against wild animals from distant provinces are deemed high entertainment. Still, the concept of mass entertainment has stayed with us. The difference, putting on bread and games for the people back then, was primarily politically motivated. But in the 21st century, commerce and entertainment rule. The idea is basically the same, even if today's shows are much less bloody and nobody has to die for the entertainment of the masses. Today, footballers are perhaps the biggest stars. In contrast to ancient Rome, they're free, but a lot of money still changes hands for them, and they too are celebrated as heroes. In Rome, captives are brutally exposed to the whim of their owners, but free people enjoy a huge and unusual privilege. They're all equal in the eyes of the law. Every citizen of Rome enjoys Roman civil rights. There are no exceptions. A lawyer usually represents the plaintiff at court. Trial strategies are often discussed at the public latrine.
She cheated on me. Yes, and on my life, more than just once.
We've been here before. The question is, do you have proof? Definite proof?
The whole world knows she cheated on me. It's the talk of the town. And one of the sons she bore after our divorce. He doesn't look like me at all. Is that not proof?
He could be yours nonetheless. We need proof, not hearsay.
I'll explain it to the judge. He'll believe me.
Listen, you need to reach an agreement, or it's going to be a long, expensive trial.
I'll keep her dowry, and you will fight this case for me in court.
It won't be easy. We don't have much to go on, but I'll do everything I can for you. Agreed?
I'll be in touch if I find out any more.
Okay then.
il diritto romano, come gli altri diritti,
Roman law evolved in order to create order in society and enable a peaceful communal life. Without this order, trade as well as individual lives would have been at risk. The law originated in the mores, the ways of the ancestors. They'd been followed since time immemorial. These traditions gradually became laws, which were then written down.
E alle usanze si affianca la legge, che è la legge scritta.
The Romans are quick to go to trial. Their jurisdiction is public, a pastime for many citizens. Anyone wishing to practice as a lawyer has to train long and hard. But there is no formal schooling, so everything is passed down from experienced lawyers.
Why here? I don't understand what this is about.
Well, show me what you've got. Go.
Romans.
No, posture. Chest out. Again.
Romans.
Louder. You have to draw attention to yourself. And you have to use your arms better. Big gestures are important. Go on.
Romans! Quiet down there!
In order to someday deliver fiery speeches in front of countless onlookers, the voice is trained and rhetoric studied meticulously.
Well, it's all right. But you still have much to learn. And Cicero, he started out small. Daily practice. That's it. Believe me. Come on.
For lawyers to be, Cicero's speeches are considered compulsory reading. Cicero is perhaps the most famous Roman orator. He's the role model for generations of lawyers, because success in court depends on brilliant rhetoric. Trials in ancient Rome are similar to today. Initially, the plaintiff presents his case, which is then considered in the presence of the accused. The judgment is made by the jurors. They have small tablets with the letters A, absolvo, for an acquittal, and C, condemno, for a conviction. Sentences range from monetary fines to exile and even death in the arena. If the vote is split, the principle in dubio pro reo stands. If in doubt, the judgment is for the accused.
Ci sono due tipi di processo.
There are two types of trials. The public trial, for example, in the case of a murder. This is when society punishes the guilty party. It's the citizens themselves who congregate at the forum and sentence the murderer. But when the rights of an individual citizen are violated, for example through theft, the injured party has to appeal directly to the judge and present the case in court.
A doversi recare dal magistrato per chiedere giustizia.
Political crimes are heard by special tribunals in public. But fundamentally, a common legislation applies for all citizens. Nobody is without protection, whether they're rich or poor, men or women. And the women of ancient Rome have more liberties than in ancient Greece. They may have no political power, but they do have civil rights.
Your Honor.
Court is in session.
We are divorced according to the law, although he refuses to pay.
Your Honour, this law is no longer effective in cases of adultery.
Which law applies or not is still down to me. Your Honour, she's had a son who doesn't look anything like him. It can happen sometimes. But in this case...
The boy has blue eyes and red hair. We wanted to show him here, but she refuses to. She has something to hide.
No, I don't. The boy is your son. This man only wants my money.
You have soiled my reputation, and that's why the money is mine.
Can you prove it?
Correct. Without proof, you have nothing. We have 2 witnesses, and where are they? They're still refusing to testify, but not for much longer.
Whatever they say, I will get my money. And now I'd like to go, if I may. I have things to do. Goodbye.
Le donne romane hanno maggiori
Roman women had more rights and more liberties than the women of ancient Greece, but within certain limits. They have civil rights, but no political power. And they don't have the right to trade. So they're allowed to own a plot of land, but they can't buy or sell it. That's down to her legal guardian, her father. As soon as the pater familias dies, the daughter is more self-sufficient. For example, she can get a divorce. But in contrast to the sons who are released from their father's guardianship and become heads of families, the woman always has to answer to her legal guardian. Roman law becomes one of the empire's most significant exports. No other judicial system has had as much influence on later ones. Even today, law students have to study Roman law, since it still forms the framework of state and legal order in modern Europe. And legal systems, following the ancient Roman model, operate right across the world. The United Nations Charter in New York is also based on these ancient principles. But in Roman times, the laws of the conquerors are not often accepted in the provinces without resistance. The fact that the Romans put their laws above local ones is seen as a provocation. But the Roman judicial system is to be established everywhere, especially in the turbulent border regions where revolts are frequent.
I sentence the accused to die on the cross for high treason.
The conquered people in the north of the empire are especially rebellious, but they're not alone. The legionnaires' most dangerous adversaries are the Parthians in what is now Iran. The Picts of present-day Scotland constantly raid the province of Britannia. In the north of Africa, the Berbers make life difficult for the Roman army. But most feared are the Germans. They go to war for the smallest of reasons. The Germans live in cold, almost endless forests, described by a contemporary Roman as a terrifying wilderness. But far more dangerous than the savages from the forest is in fact a Roman legionnaire, Arminius. A German brought to Rome as a child. He learns to speak fluent Latin and knows all about Roman weapons. He even becomes a Roman officer in charge of numerous auxiliary forces in the war against Germania. But the Romans continue to treat Arminius as a second-class citizen. When, after many years, he finally returns to his homeland, he changes sides. Arminius secretly gathers the Germanic tribes. He builds on the widespread anti-Roman sentiment and persuades the tribal leaders to go to war against the occupying forces.
I have fought at their side in Pannonia, and their legions advance well-ordered in rank and file with such force. It's hopeless. We will be destroyed in an open attack.
Then we will attack them on the move. Their columns are drawn out like lindworm for miles through the plain.
But Varus is moving with 3 legions. That's almost 20,000 men. We're inferior to them. We can't attack them everywhere at the same time. But they fear our forests.
Arminius and his new allies lure the Romans into a carefully planned ambush. With success, the soldiers enter the trap, and the Germans sound the attack. In the year 9 after Christ, 3 Roman legions are destroyed at the Battle of Teutoburg Forest. One of the worst defeats the Roman Empire has suffered up to that point. Arminius is declared a hero. He's seen as the liberator of Germania. In the 19th century, a colossal statue is erected in his honor in the Teutoburg Forest, the Hermann Monument. After this costly defeat, the Romans have to pull back once and for all. The Rhine becomes a firm border. And as protection against the savages, Rome builds the limes, the mightiest fortification of its time. It snakes through today's Germany for 550 kilometers. The Roman rulers give up on conquering all of Germania. At the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest, the Romans are forced to remain west of the newly determined borders for the first time. The area to the east remains free. That's where the Germanic tribes live.
The
Rhine was a clear border, not just militarily, but also culturally. You can still see it today, for example, because the French speak French, a Romance language. And the signs are in Germany too. For example, Trier, with its imposing Roman remains. The Rhinelanders are particularly proud to have enjoyed Roman civilization. The Romans would have said, well, everything here with us is civilized, and over there, on the other side, is the Barbaricum. Or as the Germans would have put it, the Germania Libera, the free Germania.
Aber auch, das hätten die Germanen gesagt, die Germania Libera, das freie Germanien.
The people to the right of the Rhine and the limes are free, but they also live in simple huts in widely scattered small settlements. Anyone unwilling to cooperate with the empire might retain their freedom, but they also live simple, tough lives. That's the price of independence. Millions of barbarians welcome the Romans because of their civilization. Instead of getting stuck on rough, muddy tracks, they enjoy the advantages of new stone roads. People leave their cramped wooden huts in favor of stone houses, some with underfloor heating, a serious advantage in the cold north. With the Roman way of life, the dolce vita also arrives in the provinces. And not least, the Romans bring entertainment to the people in great theaters. Remains of the Roman civilization are still found throughout the former empire today. magnificent baths and multi-story aqueducts that stretch hundreds of kilometers across the country. Grand theaters in picturesque landscapes and imposing arenas in vibrant metropolises. The way the Romans chisel their culture in stone is a stroke of genius. They don't just leave their mark on Europe, but also in faraway North Africa. Being a Roman province brings many advantages.
Der Vorteil für die Provinzen war,
the advantage for the provinces was the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. And that entailed that the Romans and their strong, superior legal system would guarantee peace over decades, even centuries. They did this by setting up a municipal administration everywhere. It means that the people organized and administrated themselves. In the end, you had a legal system, peace, and the quiet settlement of disputes, but also running water, good technology, good roads, and a well-functioning administration. Things still lacking in some European countries even today. Yet the Roman Empire collapses nonetheless, despite the best army of its time and despite the perfect supply structure for all Roman citizens and their many liberties. It takes time, but Rome perishes. Decadence was often cited as the cause, but that's a myth. Internal power struggles weaken the rule of the emperors. One thing is unclear. Who and under what circumstances will become the imperial successor? From the 3rd century onwards, the problem becomes a permanent crisis. The emperors suddenly have to fight their own soldiers, who themselves want to become emperors of Rome. Now they don't just deploy troops to deal with external enemies, but also internal ones. And on top of the internal crisis, there are outside pressures. The climate changes and triggers mass migrations. In the 4th century AD, Huns, Vandals, and Goths push into the empire's territories. They're searching for better living conditions, and in the end, seal the demise of the superpower. In the 5th century AD, the Roman Empire ceases to exist. But its legacy is huge. Modern Europe not only has to thank Rome for its massive modern sporting events, the idea of organizing society through a well-functioning infrastructure also goes back to the ancient Romans. Even today, the dream of the Roman peace lives on. And our idea of law and order also goes back to the Romans and is present even in the International Court of Justice. And not least, it is a Roman emperor who favors Christianity as the official religion. Its foundation as a world religion was laid in Rome. The Vikings live widely scattered across the north of Europe. The Romans call the cold, rugged home of the Norsemen Scandinavia. It's a mysterious, alien land. Remote and scarcely populated. A land where fire and ice meet. Untamable natural forces rule the land. And it's surrounded by the cold northern oceans. At first, the Vikings lived peacefully along Scandinavia's coastline, in particular around Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. But before long, the Norsemen set out on their ships to terrorize Europe. Their story begins around 793 AD. Viking dragon boats suddenly appear on the coastline of the British Isles. Their target is the small island monastery of Lindisfarne, an important pilgrim's destination in the north of England. The monastery is home only to monks. The devout men are rich and peaceful. They defend their treasures only with words, not weapons. But the Vikings see their Christian god as weak. A god who doesn't believe in fighting, dies on the cross, and can't protect his people. A bizarre concept for the Norsemen. So the monk's valuable property is seen as an easy target for a Viking raid. The monastery is close to the sea. Once their ships have reached the shore, they want to attack quickly and out of the blue. It's typical Viking strategy. They don't go in for long-term planning. The warriors on the boats are fearless and battle-hardened. The momentous raid on the monastery is not their first. Unguarded treasures like these are a huge temptation for the marauders. By the time the monks notice the strangers, it's already too late. The raid on the monastery at Lindisfarne marks the Vikings' entrance into world history.
No sooner had the monks seen the Viking ships on the horizon than the warriors would have been here, standing at the monastery. For the monks, this would have been a traumatic experience. Many of them saw it as a sign of worse to come, and they were right. The raids continued until eventually the monks were forced to abandon the monastery.
For many people in those days, these tall, strong men who know neither fear nor mercy epitomize sheer terror. The Vikings are infamous for both their brutality and their bravery. The berserks especially push the boundaries of violence. They are the toughest warriors of them all, a kind of elite troop. The churchmen don't stand a chance against these attackers. All that's left to them is their prayer. Most of them are killed. Any survivors are sold into slavery. Back at home, the rich spoils will earn the plundering warriors power and honor. Whatever they can fit on their ships is taken and divided amongst them at a later stage. All they leave behind is death and destruction. The attack on the monastery is only the beginning of a reign of terror. The much-feared dragon boats now appear often along the British coastline. During the early Middle Ages, half of Europe lives in fear of Viking attacks. They're the most successful fighters of their time, even though their equipment leaves much to be desired. They don't usually own chainmail shirts, and their weapons are basic. Hardly any of them wear helmets, especially none with horns. They're a myth. The horned helmets are an invention made famous through Richard Wagner's operas. There is much speculation about the legendary berserks. Some experts think they may have consumed intoxicating mushrooms before battle, but those cause nausea. It's possible other plants were used that could also have worked as intoxicants, including a fungus found in grain crops that apparently causes hallucinations. And biting their shields may have triggered a sort of self-hypnosis. But most believe that this elite troop hyped themselves up into an adrenaline-fueled frenzy by shouting. It releases hormones that make warriors less susceptible to pain.
Nowadays, we believe that it was their fighting spirit and not their weapons that made the Vikings such effective warriors. This was a time when most people were violent, but perhaps the Vikings, more than anyone else, really understood how violence worked. They even gave their swords names, celebrating it. Battle Blaze, Bloodthirster, Life Hater. These swords weren't better than others, but they were an integral part of their owners' lives, important possessions. We can compare this to those people today who give names to their boats or cars.
But their most important weapons are their ships. This is where the Scandinavians are in their element. They don't just build the fastest boats of their time, but also the most stable. Their forays lead from the coasts of Scandinavia to the beaches of the Baltics, the monasteries of England and the Rhineland, the harbors of France and Spain, right down to Italy. The Vikings target centers of commerce right across Europe. Their so-called dragon boats offer enough space for a few dozen men and are ideal for raids. Fara e Viking, to journey like a Viking. Anyone taking part in them is called Vikinger or buccaneer. But these brutal thieves also have a much more peaceful side to them. Most of the time, they all live quiet lives at home as fishermen, farmers, or craftsmen. Their products are easily sold on the markets, especially tanned animal skins and furs. Some even make rune stones, but the majority live off the land, the sea, and the countless lakes. Their blacksmiths are famous. This is where much of their loot is smelted down, where valuable coins can be turned into jewelry. A typical Viking house is small and windowless. Large, long houses are reserved for clan chiefs and their families. At the beginning of the Viking era, the Norsemen know neither state nor kingdom. They're organized in large family clans with a leader, the Jarl. Below the Jarls are the free men, farmers, fishermen, craftsmen, and merchants. Their wives are in charge of the house. When the men are away on raids or business during the summer, they manage the estate on their own. The underclass consists of servants and laborers. All important decisions are made at the People's Assembly, the Ting. The free men of a district meet at a specified time out in the open. That's where important decisions are debated and judgments are made in case of disputes.
Listen up! We have come together to make a decision that is good for us all. We have to reach a consensus. If anyone wants to speak, speak now!
In Iceland, the Althing takes place at the foot of a volcanic crevice, a magical place. It's one of the rare times when the Vikings come together from their scattered farms. There are also a few towns, trading posts like Birka, Kaupang, and Haithabu in today's Schleswig-Holstein. That's where international business connections begin to develop in the 10th century. At the time, Haithabu has about 1,000 inhabitants, and its harbour is famous for the visiting ships from all corners of the world. Merchants from all over Europe come to Haithabu to trade their goods for the Vikings' jewelry and looted treasures. One Eastern merchant describes Haithabu as the big town at the far end of the ocean. The Scandinavians' raucous parties are infamous. The Norsemen like to drink. Getting drunk is even seen as a sign of masculinity. And no party is complete without a poet, who recites songs in praise of the host. He's known as the Skálda.
What's going on? Where's your performance? Our guest is bored already.
A song for our host and his well-traveled guest. He has fought great battles and returned with rich booty, and lets us all have part in it. Invites us to his banquet.
Skull!
He is well read and has traveled the world, but he can drink like no other and has the most beautiful woman at his side.
Skull! You are as tall as our date palms. Your women are blonde and glowing as the sun. And you are hospitable in a way I have never encountered on my many travels.
The Skáldas travel between estates to recite heroes' tales and verses, mainly in praise of whichever lord is currently playing host. For a long time, their stories are only passed on orally. Not until the 12th century are they also written down. The famous Norse sagas and Edda songs emerge. They recount the deeds of fearless men, of drinking sessions and raids, of odysseys and wars. But they're also about the Vikings' gods, and there are many of those. The Vikings' mythology is rich and colourful. Their world is full of mystery. Their surroundings are inexhaustible sources of myths and magic. A spirit could live in every crevice, in every geyser. A giant could be at home in a volcano, or a dwarf could keep his smithy there. Giants are even said to have been involved in the creation of the earth. In the beginning, there is just fire and ice. But when they touch, the first ancestor, Ymir, emerges. But the gods kill Ymir and form the earth from his body. His blood fills the oceans, his bones make up the mountains, and his hair the forests. His skull turns into the sky, and his brain into clouds. Then the first human pair emerges from two tree trunks. Odin is the chief god and lives in Valhalla. A rainbow bridge connects his realm with the human world. Odin's son, Thor, is the strongest of all the gods. He fashions rain and thunder with his hammer and protects the people. Whatever happens on Earth, Thor is always the one asked to help. But when somebody dies, people also consult the advice of magicians. Husbands and fathers often don't come back alive from their raids. Their families ask wise women for advice about what happens to the dead. Nobody really knows what happens after death, but what is certain, not everyone has an afterlife. The souls of the dead that don't make it to the afterlife are said to haunt the earth as returnees. The Vikings are afraid of that.
They brought him back. He's dead.
How did he die? In battle?
I didn't see a single wound on him. I don't know. But I want to know what will happen to him now. Where will he go?
We can't see into the other world. You should be glad about that. But you can do something to ensure your father's ghost doesn't come back to haunt you.
What is it?
When you bury him, make sure his head is laid to rest between his legs.
Only brave warriors find a place in the other world. They go to Valhalla. That's where Odin and his wife live and enjoy the fallen Vikings' endless duels. Here, the chosen few live on until the end of the world. During the day, they compete against each other, and in the evening, they celebrate at Odin's table with mead and meat. Valhalla is paradise. Anyone unlucky enough not to die in battle goes to Hell, a dark realm of lifeless souls. So anyone able to afford it buries their dead in style. One of the biggest graves is in South Sweden. Huge rocks erected in the shape of a ship surround the burial site. The ship is to take the dead to the afterlife. In 1903, the most famous ship burial site is discovered in Norway. A farmer has found a few wooden scraps on his land. 1 year later, archaeologists uncover the Oseberg ship. It is 22 meters long and made of oak. The burial chamber is behind the mast. That's where the researchers find the skeletons of 2 Viking women. They must have been rich. The Oseberg ship is more like a yacht than a warship, but it clearly demonstrates the Vikings' shipbuilding skills. A decorated cart and wooden sledge are part of the grave goods. Everything a Viking needs to live a comfortable life after death. The skeletons suggest that a very old woman was buried in the ship together with a young girl, probably a queen and her servant. Anyone with such an imposing grave must have had a lot of influence. Today, the Oseberg ship remains one of the most important finds from Viking times. We know surprisingly little about Viking beliefs because they didn't write anything down. The Edda and other texts were written down in the High Middle Ages, so they're not from Viking times. I don't think these guys were that religious, but instead very tolerant, just like Scandinavians today. 10th century, this tolerance produces a fusion of religious beliefs.
This will help you.
The Vikings are open to new ideas, and so Christian beliefs gradually infiltrate their magical northern world. Many of them soon own a cross alongside their heathen amulets. They don't see a problem in asking for Thor's as well as Jesus's protection. Gradually, missionaries convert more and more Vikings to Christianity. From the 9th century, German bishops sent missionaries to Scandinavia without much success. There are several reasons why this endeavor, which started from Germany and later England, had any success at all. It has little to do with religion. On the one hand, all of Western Europe was already converted, and it was much easier for Scandinavian merchants to deal with Christian merchants if they too were Christians. And more importantly, Christianity offered a better deal for life after death. The Vikings only had Valhalla for warriors who died in battle, but for everyone else, Christianity offered life after death in paradise, as long as you lived a good earthly life. And finally, these small kings, chiefs and lords also wanted to feel as divine leaders appointed by God, like the great kings of England and France. This was a motivation for spreading Christianity from the top down. The new religion gains ground, initially in Denmark, then in Norway, Iceland and Sweden. The conversion is generally peaceful. Women are particularly receptive to the new belief. After all, it promises them a good life after death too. Soon, the missionaries from Germany and England are part of the tapestry. And over the course of centuries, heathen Scandinavia becomes Christian. Norway's famous stave churches from the 12th and 13th centuries are some of the first in Scandinavia. In Sweden, a golden crucifix is proof of the religious change at the time. But the original Viking mythology remains a treasure trove for opera and film, where clichés like the horned Viking helmets are kept alive. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, for example, was inspired by the Old Norse sagas. Asterix and Obelix meet the Vikings. And the wild Norsemen still fascinate children as animated characters on TV. There's a lot of fiction in what is said about the Norsemen, but one thing is certain. The Vikings are great explorers. While some go on raids, others set out to find new land. The inhabitable and fertile land at home is getting overcrowded. Numerous families set out to find their luck beyond the known world. It involves long and dangerous voyages. The Vikings rule the seas like no others. Their ships, known as knorrs, are stable and fit for the open sea. They safely sail them across the ocean and through stormy weather. In the 9th century, some Vikings leave the Norwegian coast and head northwest, past the Faroe Islands, and discover Iceland. The land there is less harsh than today and uninhabited. For many emigrants, these volcanic islands become a new home. A spectacular find has shown how the Vikings managed to travel over 1,000 kilometers to get to these isolated islands. In the 1960s, the wrecks of several Viking ships were found. Today, they're on display at the Danish Ship Museum of Roskilde. The remains are over 1,000 years old and give an insight into the Vikings' ingenious shipbuilding abilities. Two different types of ship were discovered: the stable transport ship, the Knorr, and the narrow and fast dragon ship used for raids. A few years ago, a museum team reconstructed one of the Knorrs and launched it. The aim was to find out how the ships behaved at sea.
By sailing the ships themselves, we get to know how you actually used what these wrecks means. We don't know it by looking at the wrecks themselves. And simply by going in and rebuilding again and trying again, we actually get to know what it does.
Every summer, the Sea Stallion puts to sea. The crew lives on board for several weeks to carry out their experiments. They try out all sorts of maneuvers and are surprised how fast and steadily the ship glides across the water, even when there is only little wind.
I have the deepest respect for the Viking skipper, which have been sailing these ships for 1,000 years ago. Especially this thing that is a very simple construction of the sail, but at the same time, it's just perfect in balance.
Perfect balance and speed, the attributes of all Viking ships. They're still seen as the best of their time. During the building phase, the Vikings don't saw the planks, they split them along the grain, which makes them durable and elastic. The mast can be put up and taken down quickly, essential if there's a sudden bridge behind a bend in the river or the crew has to row. The sails are adjustable, so they can tack against the wind. And the ships have a very shallow draft. The time of the big voyages always begins in early summer, when the fjords and coastlines are free of ice and snow. One of their historic journeys starts in Iceland, led by the most infamous Viking on the island, Eric the Red. He's quarrelsome and hot-tempered. Several men lose their lives at his hand. Eric is ostracized on several occasions, but when he kills two men during a quarrel with his neighbor, he's finally banished from the island. This is how Eric the Red paves the way for later discoveries, even if his motivation is not the search for adventure. Eric leaves his homeland accompanied by a few men and several slaves. He wants to find a new land said to lie somewhere to the northwest. He later names it Greenland. By calling it Greenland, Eric wants to attract other settlers. His plan works, and many Vikings follow him. Leif is Eric's firstborn son. He's said to be a happy boy who dreams of exploring the world from an early age. A story he hears in his father's house stays with him. An Icelandic merchant is said to have drifted off course on his way to Greenland. Apparently, he reached a land much farther west. Explorer's blood clearly runs in the family. Leif is gripped by a thirst for adventure. Many years later, he sets off with his own ship to find this mysterious land. Their navigation follows old rules. The sun and stars, as well as experience, lead the way. Despite the threat of storms and huge waves, Leif's crew penetrates ever further into unknown terrain. They follow the west coast of Greenland for 3 days. Then, 2 days across the open sea, and once again along the coastline, until the adventurers reach Newfoundland. In the year 1001, Leif Erikson and his men set foot on new territory. None of the Greenlanders has any idea that they're standing on American soil or that they're making history. For the newcomers, what they see seems like paradise. They later describe the land as green and covered in flowering meadows. They call it Vinland. We're not sure if it means wineland or grassland, but 2 sagas talk of this expedition to a land that must have been somewhere in North America or at its coastline. And the Vikings undertook several expeditions there around the year 1000. That much we know. And also, monastic texts from the High Middle Ages describe exactly where this land in the west really lies. The idea that the Vikings were the first Europeans in Newfoundland was long considered a legend. But in the mid-20th century, archaeologists find evidence. There are definitive signs of Norseman settlements. Today, the old farmhouses have been reconstructed. But the trail soon disappears. After a few years, the Vikings leave Vinland and never go back. Nobody knows exactly why they left. The Vinland saga tells of clashes with indigenous people. It takes 500 years before another European captain dares to cross the Atlantic. In 1492, Christopher Columbus discovers the New World in the service of the Spanish king. But he and his entourage set foot on American soil over 1,000 kilometers to the south of Leif Erikson's expedition. The first European settlers follow Columbus. They stay, unlike the Vikings. Hundreds of thousands of slaves are kidnapped in Africa and brought here to toil in the new plantations. The New World is born. But the true discoverer of America is a Viking named Leif Erikson. Numerous finds are evidence that the Vikings didn't just go west, but also east. They include Arab coins found on the Swedish island of Gotland. Archaeologists have also found several thousand of these foreign coins in the harbors of the trading posts of Haithabu and Becher. Starting in Scandinavia, the Vikings build up an enormous trading network. They penetrate further and further into what is now known as Russia. Their aim is to reach the capital of the Byzantine Empire, Constantinople. Only the toughest of men dare to venture this far. The journey is long and arduous.
I can hardly wait to get out of this mosquito-ridden wasteland. If what you say is true, we'll be bathing in gold in Constantinople. I hope so. Until now, we've seen very little. This here is what we have at home.
Just wait and see. You've no idea.
Then tell us again.
You've never seen anything like it. It's the richest city in the world. The people only wear velvet and silk, and jewelry of pure gold.
And the women?
The women? They have black hair and brown skin. There's something in their eyes. They bewitch men.
Yes, and the men are small as dwarves and can't even drink properly.
I'm not bothered about that, as long as they pray properly.
Tell me, can you also marry the women and take them with you?
That comes later. But eat something. Help yourselves. You need the strength. We still have a long way to go. Go on.
The journey from Russia to Constantinople is especially difficult. Ships and crew have to get through forests, conquer rapids, river banks, and deep swamps. It's a logistical nightmare. To traverse the enormous land, the Vikings at times even transport their knorrs across dry land. They develop a simple but effective method. When necessary, the Norsemen pull their boats along across wooden beams. Since Viking ships have no keel, they can't tip over. But they're heavy, and it often takes days before the men can return their boat to water. It's several thousand kilometers from Hyderabad to Constantinople. The men move their ships with pure manpower. Only occasionally do locals help them out with draft animals. And everywhere they go, the Scandinavians spread fear. Not least when they develop an entirely new kind of business, slavery. In the forests of Russia, there are neither rich monasteries nor cities that might be worth plundering. And on top of that, slaves are worth much more than furs and animal skins. Not even children are safe from the Norsemen. The locals meet the traveling traders unsuspectingly. It makes them easy prey. The trade in human beings soon becomes their most lucrative income. The Vikings unscrupulously hunt people down to sell them as slaves on the markets of Constantinople. Until then, they're Viking property, who decide over the life and death of their prisoners. Over the course of centuries, thousands of people disappear forever somewhere on the slave markets. Constantinople is the target of all Scandinavian merchants. In the Middle Ages, it's the most important trading post between Europe, Asia, and the Near East. When they reach the Black Sea, after their tough journey through the Russian wilderness, they're almost there. There are incredible stories about the metropolis on the Bosporus, where East meets West and people from different religions live together.
Constantinople must
have made an incredible impression on the Norsemen. They called it Miklagard, the big city, the metropolis of the Western world. The Vikings came from towns of mud walls with wooden houses, so a city of stone houses several stories high, paved streets, brick wells, water reservoirs, street lamps, and the mightiest city walls anywhere in Europe must have left an incredible impression.
Die mächtigsten Stadtmauern, die es überhaupt gab in Europa, das muss einen gigantischen Eindruck gemacht haben.
At the heart of the city is the huge bazaar. Alien smells of exotic spices, soaps and perfumes fill the air. The stands are laden with goods from faraway lands, the streets filled with a colorful mixture of languages. The Vikings always make lucrative trades here.
How are you?
Their slaves and their furs are especially sought after. The Vikings exchange them for spices, silk and jewelry, or they get paid in silver coins. It's important to haggle. But haggling has to be learned. Business in Constantinople can be tough.
We have 1 bearskin, 380 ermines, 50 sables, and these 2 slaves. What do we get for that?
What do you say?
20.
20, 20, 20. Oh, agreed.
10, 20 dirham. What does that mean? Numbers mean nothing. He should put coins on the scale so we can see how much silver we get. You, here, weigh it.
They pay in coins here, not in weight. Wait. Yusuf. Let's say 30.
20.
We've had a long journey. 25. Come on. For old time's sake. 25.
Shukran, Habibi.
Yusuf, you're a good businessman. Thank you.
Their constant business trips through Eastern Europe leave their mark. Over the course of centuries, Swedish Vikings repeatedly found and conquered towns. They're almost always important trading posts, such as Staraya Ladoga, Novgorod, and Kiev. The conquerors from the north are known as Rus. It's also the name of the first Russian state, founded in the 9th century by a community of people that also includes Vikings. But Russia is not the only state with Viking roots. In the 10th century, Vikings attacked the mouth of the Seine so frequently that the territory is eventually left to them. Known as Normans, they soon gained political influence. From the 11th century on, Norman mercenaries make their way to southern Italy, where they gain power. After conquering Sicily, they redesign Palermo as their capital. In Apulia, they erect numerous buildings in the Norman style. And even the German Hohenstaufen King Frederick II, who builds the Castel del Monte, has Viking blood. In 1066, William the Conqueror defeats England and is crowned the new king. He too is a descendant of Vikings. The Vikings left us a new, bigger Europe. They founded cities like Dublin, York, and Kiev. They also founded states, not just Normandy and Russia, but also the medieval Norman kingdom in the south of Italy. And they settled new lands like Iceland and Greenland. It means that they pushed Europe's horizons further out and left us a bigger Europe. As settlers, the Vikings colonize Iceland and Greenland. As discoverers, they set foot in America. Their descendants rule in Normandy, in England, South Italy, and Russia. They enter the world stage as plundering and murdering pirates. But the feared Vikings also have a peaceful side. Much of their time is spent at home looking after house and estate. In just a short span of time, the wild warriors from Scandinavia become global players. They build important trade networks to southern Europe and far into the east. And their tireless search for new land makes them the first to discover America. But in the High Middle Ages, there is no more talk of the Norsemen. It seems as if they've disappeared.
The Vikings make a very sudden, a very dramatic entrance into the historical record. In the end, they seem to fade away, but their expansion overseas forced them to adapt, to fit in with the other cultures they encountered, until eventually they stop being pagan Scandinavians and become medieval Europeans. Around the year 1000, they established the three great kingdoms of Denmark, Norway, later Sweden, which still exist today on a par with Britain and France. The Vikings don't disappear, they merge into world history.
The Viking inheritance are the metropolises and states they once founded and conquered. Their history is, at the same time, the history of the wild men of the north. Wherever they settle, the seafarers mix with the locals. They only exist as Vikings for about 200 years. Since the Middle Ages, they live on as Danes, Norwegians, and Swedes. But their incredible tales and sagas have stayed with us. Stories of warriors, merchants, and discoverers who spread fear through much of Europe.